It's an idyllic scene here in the rural northeast of England. Horses grazing in the sunshine on open moors and green fields. It couldn't look more picture perfect. But for an increasing number of horses in Britain, this seems to be more like the reality. Tied up in a field of pretty rank grass. And look at the hazards here. There's a car bumper, a rusting paint can with plenty of sharp edges, even an old handbrake. And look at the lovely industrial backdrop. As the recession bites, the problem grows. With the price of hay at an all-time high and costly vet bills, many desperate owners just can't afford to keep them. Last year alone, Cleveland police had 2,000 complaints about horses, from concerns over welfare to animals running free. PC Mike Pilbeam gets called out to new cases daily.
The area that we're coming up to now is the last known location where these loose horses were.
Today he's doing a routine check in the middle of a housing estate in Middlesbrough. Communal land here that used to be full of terraced housing is now full of grazing horses. Why are these horses here?
It's a very good question. We've spoken to some local residents in the area. The majority of them have owned horses for a while, stating that they've had them through childhood and everything else. Others, unfortunately, it is a status symbol. And I've got kids as young as 13 that I'm aware of that have gone out and purchased horses. And unfortunately, wherever there's a bit of grass, and there's a horse on it nowadays.
The horses themselves are tethered, but their foals aren't. Word soon gets out that we're here, and the owners come to see what's going on.
Now then, I'm fine, yourself?
Hello.
Champion. So all of these horses here are yours?
Yeah. You can get 1 million phone calls a day about these horses. Yeah. That there is a foal. You cannot tether a foal.
I'm Tom, nice to meet you. Do you mind me asking, sir, why you have these horses?
Well, so just in it.
Say again?
Gypsies. They have horses that pull the bow tops.
Yeah. But do you feel it's all right keeping horses on grass like this? Are you happy with that?
Yeah. Unless you want to give us a field.
Isn't there a danger it'll run away?
No, because it won't leave its mother, will it?
Yeah. Do you make a little bit of money out of them? Do you kind of trade them in amongst the family or whatever?
If we want to sell them, we'll get money out of them, don't we?
Yeah.
But we don't want to sell them, you know.
How much do you get for a foal like that?
Well, that's our business, isn't it?
It's thought this man has a number of horses in the area. Some kept in fields, but many in similar conditions to what we see here. Fly grazing on council land, essentially eating for free. He said he was a gypsy, but is this exclusively an issue with gypsies and travellers around here?
No, we've got house owners that are keeping horses in gardens, stabling in small garden sheds, and it's just not practical.
The situation on this estate is pretty extraordinary. Within a 1.5 mile radius, there are around 250 horses, many without adequate food or shelter. So why are we finding so many animals in such poor circumstances? Well, one of the reasons is that horses are so cheap now. You can buy them for under a £5. In effect, that's ponies for pocket money prices. At this auction, horses can go for a few pounds. That's if they sell. Auctioneer Alistair Brown has noticed a dramatic fall in the value of horses.
We did have 3 that came in the ring, and we had to sell the 3 together, and they made £10 for the 3. Horses and ponies are making sort of pittance, and these are going to various places, but there are getting fewer and fewer homes for these ponies to go to, and then there's obviously others dispatched in various other ways.
For some, the horses are not even worth the petrol it costs to take them to the auction. As the problem escalates, animal charities are struggling to keep up. The RSPCA is facing a national crisis with around 600 horses in their care at the moment, twice as many as they had last year. Chanel here was found with this terrible skin condition, but that's not the worst of it. She was so thin she had to be hoisted up, and still her back end is really bony. You poor thing. And Chanel is just one of the many horses taken in on a daily basis. The RSPCA are working to rescue others. Today they're at a raid in Kent. Working with other welfare agencies, the police and local vets who've discovered 30 horses grazing illegally on private land. Inspections show many are in a bad way.
Nearly every horse in this field is underweight. I imagine we're going to be taking quite a few today because they are really quite skinny, a lot of them, and they've got a few other issues as well, sort of nasal discharges and diarrhoea and bits and bobs going on.
The horses showing signs of neglect are taken for treatment, but at a cost of around £5,000 to rehabilitate each one, animal charities are facing a huge financial problem. So, what happens to those that aren't lucky enough to be rescued?
Undoubtedly, there is the prospect that horses are put to sleep because people can't cope. And as sad as that is, it's a truism that a horse cannot suffer if it's dead. And therefore there are people who are making the decision to have their horses put to sleep rather than abandon them to an uncertain future.
Although putting them to sleep sounds very harsh, I mean, what are the kind of things that you've seen that some of the severely neglected horses are going through?
A horse that is neglected usually suffers at this time of year. They've been starving all through the winter, they're skin and bone. Every night when we're tucked up in our nice warm beds of the duvet, they're out there shivering their socks off. They are usually very ill, they often have infectious diseases, they've got worms eating away at them. It is a picture of suffering which you cannot sort of imagine unless you've been through it yourself. So, you know, actually the prospects for those animals are much worse to be neglected than they are to be put down.
In extreme cases, the outcomes are bleak. It's hard to quantify the national situation, but it's thought that at least 3,500 horses are left chained or tied up without shelter at any one time. The soaring number of abandoned and neglected horses are stretching the charities to breaking point, but far from throwing in the towel, they've come up with a plan, and it needs your help. I'll be finding out more about it later.